My name is Maddox and this is my video out.
What are your preferred pronouns?
I could use he, him, or they, them pronouns. Woo! Okay, so hi, my name is Maddox. I am from New York City. Oh, growing up in New York City, I mean, it's interesting because it's New York. I'm like as I've gotten older, I've kind of reflected upon this because I think that growing up in the city, you kind of get used to it and you become so immune to it that you think like this is just the culture of the world, like in terms of like the diversity in the city, you know, different perspectives and that kind of thing. And you just think that the world is like that, but then you kind of start traveling when you're older. You're like, okay, the world isn't like that. And like actually now I want to leave the city, to be honest. For me, I think it's gotten overstimulated, but I feel like I also feel special to have grown up in the city because of like we are in New York. Like I think New York is a really powerful place on earth. You know, there's so much diversity, there's so much happening, and I think that there's also potential for so much to happen too. So I think that, yeah, growing up in the city, I just felt immune to it. I was just like, I'm from New York, this is so regular. But now I really acknowledge it, and I think that it helps you shape who you are as a person. It definitely gives you character. It definitely, yeah, you just like, I feel like New York allows you to have a persona and allows you to be someone. While other parts of the world, it's even in the US or even upstate New York, like let's, I guess, be specific about New York City, you know, you don't get, as it seems like people are very like conform and be quiet and don't get colorful or get too loud. And being from New York, it's just like you are like New York is just colorful, it's loud, it's splashy, like so you just kind of grow up with that. And yeah, like I guess that aspect kind of helped shape me in a sense that I really acknowledge now and I appreciate. Oh wow, I've actually I was gonna say I've come to know myself in the past 2 years, but I think I've known myself my whole life. I identify as gender variant. It's a term that I use instead of like saying trans or trans people, because I don't know, I like it better, and I think that we could change our language to refer to each other. Yeah, like growing up, I lived with my family for a while, and of course, I internalized a lot of the ways that you're told, like you have to be a certain way, and if you're assigned a certain gender, you have to act like that gender, and there's no possible way that you can question. And I tried it. Like I actively tried to be the gender that I was assigned at birth, and I failed terribly because that wasn't who I was. But you know, being able to I guess it was like a little bit of a light throughout all the darkness, because I was very depressed. Like up until 3 years ago, my whole life, you know, I had to live a life for other people, so that led me to feel very depressed and very like isolated and alone. But I guess I did have always this little bit of hope in between all those storms and all those storms and all those storms, and eventually that light just kept on growing and growing, where now it's just like a globe that I every day continue to, or try to at least, because sometimes it gets challenging, but I try to like ignite each more and more every day, and just try to like love myself and accept myself and realize that, you know, you are who you are for a reason, and if you're different and you're unique, like try to amplify that as much as possible. And you know, I think sometimes we're conditioned to like try to assimilate those parts of ourselves and try to like hide them, you know, don't, you know, try to conform and try to be like other people. And I'm like, no, actually no, we're all different. We all have our own like little story, and like how could we just like hone into that? And every day, like I try to challenge myself to show up for myself as fully as I can, like just be there for myself when in other times I wasn't there for myself. And I think it bleeds into all aspects of who I am. I always just try to make people like look at the truth of things and bring up like things that sometimes we're just not conditioned to see, and we're just always like just bypassing that. Like, you know, we don't look at the side, like we're almost like a very spiritual aspects of our life and humanity. I really try to bring that out when the rest of the world just kind of doesn't want to bring those things out. But I think that's like where our power truly comes from. So I live to make it shine. I think there's a moment where you kind of like come out to yourself, and like you have to accept that like this is who you are, like, you know. And for me, I had that moment internally of you know, with the whole Caitlyn Jenner situation happening, I for the first time was able to hear on TV like somebody say, you know, every day people wake up and they see who they are in the mirror and they feel like that's who they are, but I don't feel that way. Like, I don't look in the mirror and feel like this is like the reflection I'm seeing is who I am. And those words really resonated with me, and that's when I was like, oh wow, like this is who I am. Like I'm trans. Like, wow, this is like there's a like I didn't know I could be this way, you know. Like, I think also because for me it's like historically there's been a lack of representation for trans masculine people on TV, on the media, and just, you know, in general. I think we've definitely been here from the past and then years ago, eons ago, but there's been an overall lack. So, you know, I was able to see trans people but I wasn't able to see like trans men before. And then you know, once like I started to learn more and see like, wow, I can actually be this way. Like, what? Like, I can transition? I didn't know that can happen. That was a very revelating moment for me, but it was still very internal. Like, I didn't feel like, of course I knew this, but it didn't feel like how could I execute this? You know, I was looking at things through the perspective of like, you know, I've lived my whole life a certain way. Like, I wasn't even trying to be at least a little bit masculine. Like, I actively was trying to be like a girl, and you know, to just from one day to the next switch, like just have a completely different shift. I just didn't see it possible at the moment, but I guess with some support of like my partner, I spoke to my partner, and like I think that was like the first person or one of the first people that I kind of let them know, like, you know what, this is actually, I think I might identify this way. And you know, this piece of advice they gave me really stuck out to me. It's definitely might be a controversial piece of advice, but it really helped me in my journey, so I will stick to it. And they, you know, because for some reason before I was really fixated on my family, on like their opinions, and just trying to satisfy them, especially my mom, who I felt very like close to in the past, and wanting to satisfy my mom, because, you know, growing up there was already a lot of things going on at home, and I felt like me bringing in my identity was adding another layer of stress, which is ridiculous for me to think, but that's just where I was, unfortunately, in my journey. But you know, they told me that unfortunately, you know, your family's gonna die one day. Like, they're gonna die. That's just the reality of things, and you may continue to live when they die. And you know, you can't stop yourself for other people when everyone's gonna die at some point. That's, you know, it sounds kind of harsh, but that's the reality. And if you pause yourself for other people, then it's like, why? If maybe one day they might be gone, and you didn't get to live, and now they're gone. So, you know, do you wait until then? So that kind of struck to me. I'm like, you know, that's true. Like, they will, you know, like at some point like go away, or just not be there, and what would that leave for me? Like, you know, so I just kind of started to ponder that more, and like, you know, things were like already kind of rocky at home, but when I discovered that this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I wanted, like I wanted to transition, I kind of left my house. And you know, unfortunately I experienced homelessness and things like that. I didn't even know, I didn't even realize I was homeless till, like, you know, I spoke to people, and because I thought, you know, if I'm couch surfing, if I'm sleeping at a friend's house, you know, I have a home. Like, to me, it felt like I have a home, but then I didn't really see like the reality of the situation with like other factors and other things, which kind of leads to like my big coming out story. Is interesting. I feel like it kind of happened publicly, to be honest, because I was so just a little context. Like, I once I continued on my journey to be who I am, I cut off my family and friends from the past. Unfortunately, I was just at a space where everything associated with those folks was just trauma, and also like some friends were just not respecting me and just not willing to see me for who I am. So it was hard, and then it's still challenging sometimes, because sometimes I still think about those people and those relationships. But you know, I've met other amazing spirits to remind me of them, and that I'm able to still have them in my life in some way. But yeah, so I didn't speak to any of those people, anyone from the past. Just kind of started a whole new life. I was, receiving services at Ali Forney Center, a shelter for LGBTQ youth. And I think about 2 years ago, Teen Vogue had come to do, I was a youth advocate doing advocacy for LGBTQ homeless youth. And Teen Vogue had come to speak to me and 2 other youth advocates at the time, and they did an interview on us and our experiences. And to me, I feel like, okay, that was kind of like my coming out story to the world, because I didn't, I kind of insinuated to my family and might have shared with them over email or text, like, this is who I am, but it never really happened, like that I come out to family and friends like that. But when this video was out, maybe some people came across it, of some family and friends have come across it and see me and my story there. But I feel like that's kind of how I first like publicly came out to the world. And I guess that's how that coming out, kind of the external coming out, happened with the public. Like it was just this video of mine, what I was going through at the time and my experiences, and I guess they got to see it, or maybe they might see this, hopefully. I will say that because I'm like cis assumed, like a trans person, gender variant person, like oftentimes people assume that I'm cis unless I speak and I tell them otherwise. So, but still, I feel like as a trans person, like, so I will say that sometimes that me being like cis assumed, that the way that I navigate sometimes is a little bit safer, especially that I'm also like masculine presenting. But then I feel like sometimes being trans, unfortunately, like some way, somehow you still deal with things, like you still, because the world is unfortunately set up to be curated to like cis, like sexism. So you will here and there face some like reminders of like, the hate or like the things that exist. When it like happens to me, sometimes it's a reminder. I'm like, wow, like this is still where the world, like this is really the reality of the world. Even if, sometimes when we're like in progressive circles and our friends are progressive and the work we do is, you kind of think like the world is nice and like everybody gets it. But then you go out and step out of that and it's like, actually, no, like, there's still like bigotry out there. And it's tough, but I think for me, I would tell them, I would try, sometimes maybe question them if I have the time and energy for that. But I also think that sometimes it's okay to just walk away from those people and ignore those people if they're not like touching us or doing things that are. But if we can, like, sometimes we just have to ignore those people. But oftentimes I called it out, like, I'm very like focused on this mission to make people see like that trans people are magical, and like I'd like really challenge why would you see us outside of, why see us outside of that, of like that we're really just like magic. Like I think, we're able to manifest, like really like outwardly exude like manifestation, like what it was in our brain to now be out here. And just try to make them see that and try to question like why do you you see the way that you see and think that like there's something wrong with you, kind of like that has been like projects that I've always wanted to do. It's like a lot of times it seems like trans people we're taking stuff from the world and we have to like explain to the world. But I feel like I always want to like look at the camera and say, well, you made up these constructs of gender. I just came here and like show you that those things are not true, but you kind of created them. So, who's really the problem here? And like, just really try to question like that these things were instilled on us, that this is obviously not the way that things are, because we're here. Like if the world is trying to tell us that everything is black and white, but there's like rainbow sprinkles everywhere, then things don't add up. So yeah, just try to challenge them and try to send them. I know it's really hard to be the bigger person sometimes, but try to I use this like kill them with kindness thing, like try to just pray and send compassion and love to them, because that's what they need really, like. And they might get more upset at you for it, but just keep on like sending them that love. And it's very hard sometimes, honestly, because there are some very nasty people out there, very, very nasty people. But if it's not an escalated situation, then trying those things. If it's an escalated situation, then then other things may need to take place.
Last question.
I like questions.
What's your favorite part about being you?
What is my favorite part about being me? What is my favorite part about being me? I think I really enjoy the ability that I feel like it's almost a superpower that I have, and it's that I have the ability to dream and imagine. And I feel like in this world, like, people try to take that away from you, and so hard and so much, like, especially with like things are fixated this way and things have to be this way and things are like this. And I think my whole existence, like even with like being born and being trans and, you know, all these identities that I hold, I think that they were for a reason, to really like help me and my embodiment and my spirit, like a constant reminder that anything you want is possible. Like sometimes I forget about that, and I think like, oh, you know, I'm really into music, and one of my dreams is to be like a successful musician one day. And sometimes I think I can never get there, and I will never, like, I'm not able to do that. But then I think back to my journey when I was like, you know, younger, and I was like writing my journals how I hated myself, and I could never accept myself, and I could never like see myself like accepting myself, number one, like even just to accept myself, and even further to like transition. Like I could have never imagined that to be, I mean, to a certain extent I must have been able to imagine it, but like generally, like I'd largely remember just not thinking that I had the ability to do those things. So like when I just sit back and reflect and remember you were able to do this, like you were able to change your life completely, like you can do like anything, but just always believe in yourself, and always like believe in your power to like imagine and dream. And like even if it seems like it might not happen in this reality, like I dream about, you know, a greener world, or us just working for the world to be green and working towards the earth, and just envisioning like green and fruits and vegetables everywhere in abundance for everyone, and medicine, alternative medicine. And I just dream, like just visualize that, even if I'm told I can't physically do that on earth. But to me, just the fact that I can like see that and imagine that is so powerful to me, because I feel like, yeah, in this world, in this society, like everything is like conditioning us to believe and act a certain way, and just believe and condition. And for me, like I love that I'm able, like that part of my spirit that is just able to kind of like question things and dream, and like, you know, it's just like almost embody that I'm not from this planet. I think I was put on this planet to help the planet out in terms of like question certain things and things of that nature. But yeah, like honing into that and seeing that as a superpower, like that's my superpower, and like cultivating that superpower.
Yes. I love that.
Thank you for doing this and like reaching out to me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad
it's been awesome. Yeah.
I kind of want a t-shirt with your face, because I live to make it shine.
Let's make it happen. That would be awesome. This year I was a True Colors Fellow. Yes, it was awesome. For the last 6 months I've been working on a media project that hopefully later on you get to hear more about. And I don't know if people watch this, maybe they can see the videos on True Colors Facebook. But yeah, I'm really excited to be sharing my project, because it was really special to me, because I was tying in organizing and science fiction, and also looking at LGBTQ people as superheroes, and like how, you know, kind of giving us the shine that we deserve, that we normally don't get in society. But the perspective of like, you know, we are magical, like we are actively making society question gender and sexuality, and like breaking down those constructs. And I think oftentimes we just don't hear that narrative. It just kind of goes unnoticed. But I really want to like work to amplify that, and have more people and us really like kind of like embody that and internalize that. You know, I think we internalize so many negative things, but if we internalize more that we are like super beings, and we're so powerful and can do so much.
Amazing. I'm obsessed.